Hello, welcome once again to this class. And in today's class, we'll be treating the topic that says the geography of Nigeria. So, for the objectives we have today, first and foremost, we are going to look at Nigeria in terms of the location and position. And we are also going to look at the latitudes and longitudes of Nigeria, the boundaries and the neighbors surrounding Nigeria. Then also we are going to look at the size and distance of Nigeria, and then we'll look at the various states we have in Nigeria and also the political map of Nigeria. Then in the second part of this lesson, we'll also look at the highlands and the lowlands areas in Nigeria. Then we'll look at the rivers and the drainage systems we have in Nigeria. And lastly, we are also going to look at the importance and the limitations of our physical settings in Nigeria. Now, as we all know, Nigeria is actually located in Africa and West Africa, to be precise. And Nigeria is actually a multi-ethnic society, meaning that we have lots of ethnic tribes and religions in Nigeria. But the three major ethnic groups we have in Nigeria are the Hausa, the Igbo, and the Yoruba. So let's just have a glimpse of what Nigeria is. As you can see, this is the map of Nigeria. And Nigeria is actually made up of 36 states and the FCT. And in these 36 states of the Federation, we actually have 774 local government areas, with Kano having the highest of 44 and Bayelsa, having the least number. And the FCT, which is the central point of the country, is regarded as the capital of the country. So let's talk about Nigeria in terms of location. Nigeria is in West Africa, and it's actually found between latitude 4 degrees north and 14 degrees north of the equator. And in terms of longitude, the country is found in longitude 3 degrees east and 15 degrees east of the Greenwich meridian. So when we want to calculate the stretch of Nigeria, you realize that the latitudinal stretch of Nigeria is 14 degrees north minus 4 degrees north, which is equal to 10 degrees, while the longitudinal stretch of Nigeria will be 15 degrees minus 3 degrees, which is equivalent to 12 degrees. So Nigeria is 12 degrees apart in terms of longitude and 10 degrees apart in terms of latitude. And with these coordinates, it is very easy to locate Nigeria on the Earth's surface. So as we can see, this is the map of Nigeria, and the vertical lines we have here, they are the lines of longitude, while the horizontal lines we have here are the latitudinal lines. So if you look at the western part of Nigeria here, and you look at the eastern part of Nigeria here, you observe that the vertical line, cuts into, at this point, we have 3 degrees. This line stands for 2 degrees east. Then this point here, we have, should be 3 degrees. That's why it's approximately 3 degrees to the east. Then when you come to this other stretch of Nigeria, where you have the longitude, at this point here, it's 15 degrees to the east. Then in terms of latitude, you see that we have these horizontal lines here projecting towards the North Pole. Now this horizontal line here is 5 degrees north, and if you look below, down to where you have the Port Harcourt and Niger Delta, you realize that it's just 1 degree apart. So at this point here, which is 4 degrees north, and if you go to the extreme north of Nigeria, we have 14. That is from 12 degrees 30 minutes north down to this point should be 14 degrees. So here is 4 degrees north, while this point is 14 degrees north. So 4 degrees north, 14 degrees north, 3 degrees east at this point, and on this other side of Nigeria we have 15 degrees east. So when you map out those coordinates, it's very easy to spot out Nigeria on the globe. Now, let's look at the position of Nigeria. Now, if we are aware that Nigeria is actually found in West Africa. Now, what are the countries or bodies surrounding Nigeria? Now, if you look at the southern part of Nigeria here, we have the Atlantic Ocean. Now, to the west, Nigeria is bounded by Benin Republic, and also to the east, we have Cameroon, surrounding us here. And at the northern part of Nigeria, we have Niger Republic, and at the northeastern part, we have the Chad Republic. So one thing is that Nigeria is actually surrounded by French-speaking countries, and these French-speaking countries are known as Francophone countries. So in a nutshell, we have Benin Republic at the west, we have Niger Republic at the north, we have Cameroon at the east, and the Atlantic Ocean at the south, and also Chad Republic in the northeast. So these are the countries surrounding us. So with these countries, we can easily spot out the position of Nigeria in West Africa. Now, let's look at the size of Nigeria. Now, in terms of landmass, Nigeria is the 4th largest country in West Africa. When we talk about Niger Republic, when we talk about Mali, when we talk about Mauritania, Nigeria comes in next as the 4th largest. And the landmass of Nigeria is approximately 923,768 kilometers square. So that's how big Nigeria is in terms of land area. And when you move from the eastern part of Nigeria to the western part of Nigeria, the stretch of Nigeria spans to a distance of about 1,300 kilometers. Then if you move from the northern part of Nigeria to the southern part of Nigeria, the stretch spans up to a distance of 1,000 kilometers. So 1,300 kilometers from the east to the west, and about 1,000 kilometers from the north to the south. So that's the size of Nigeria, and it's a country with a population of over 210 million persons living in it. Now, let's look at the political divisions of Nigeria. The name Nigeria, came into existence, due to our colonial masters, and Nigeria was formed in the year 1914 as a result of the amalgamation of the Northern Protectorate and the Southern Protectorate. Now, the North and the Southern region were brought together by Sir Lord Frederick Lugard, and it got its independence in the year 1960 in October. And during that period, Nigeria existed in 3 major regions. Nigeria had the northern region, Nigeria had the western region, and Nigeria had the eastern region. And for the northern region, the headquarters then was actually in the city of Kaduna. So Kaduna was the headquarters of the northern region of Nigeria, and the western region of Nigeria had its headquarters in Ibadan, in Oyo State. And for the eastern Nigeria, the headquarters was actually based in Enugu. So, as you can see, this is a map showing the regions, of Nigeria in terms of Biafra, Arewa, Nigeria, and Oduwa. So quickly, let's also look at what happened next, after the first, second, and third region were made. Now, Nigeria became a republic in 1963, and during that period, the Midwestern region was created, and it had to, sum up to a total number of 4 regions. And the Midwestern region had its headquarters in Benin City in Edo State. So after the formation of the region, Nigeria was split in states, and the first was 19 states in 1978, and then 21 states in 1987, and currently we have 36 states in Nigeria and the Federal Capital Territory, which was, made the capital in 1991. Now, let's go to the physical setting of Nigeria. So, when we talk about the physical setting of Nigeria, we are actually talking about, the physical landscape or the physical structure of Nigeria, what Nigeria is composed of physically. And in this aspect of Nigeria, we talk about things like the relief of Nigeria, we talk about things like the drainage of Nigeria, we talk about things like the climate of Nigeria, we talk about things like the vegetation of Nigeria. So, first of all, let's look at the relief of Nigeria. Now, when we talk about relief, we are actually talking about the height of a place above sea level. So it means how high or how low a place is from the level of the sea. And relief is actually categorized into the highlands and the lowlands. So when we talk about the highland area, we are actually talking about the places where the height of the land is literally from 300 meters and above from the sea level. So if a place is as high as 300 meters or 400 meters or 500 or 1,000 or just beyond 300 meters, that place is actually classified as a highland area. And for highland areas, we basically have highlands like mountains and plateaus. So in Nigeria here, we have highlands, which we are going to see next. So let's look at the areas of highlands in Nigeria. So for Nigeria, we basically have 4 regions where the highlands are usually visible. Now, the first region where we have highland is the north central region of Nigeria. That is the north central highland. Now, in this place, we have popular, highland like the Jos Plateau. And also, the second place is the western highland. Then we have the eastern highland, and we have the eastern scarpland or the Enugu escarpment. So, what is the relevance of these highlands? Why is highland important? Why is a mountain important? Why is a plateau important? Now, the first one is that these highlands, they provide us with minerals. They serve as a source of what? Of minerals. So, with a highland, a place that is made up of highlands, it's possible to find minerals from rocks, minerals from mountains, minerals that can be used for our daily activities or daily life. And also, highlands are sources of rivers. If you look at the various rivers we have in Nigeria, River Niger, River Benue, Ogun River, Osun River, Imo River, and the rest of them, you realize that these rivers in Nigeria, they actually have their source from highland area. A good example is River Niger. Now, River Niger gets its source from the Futajalon Highlands or the Guinea Highlands in the western part of Africa, and the river flows from the Futajalon Highlands down to Nigeria. So that is just it. And also the Ogun River and Osun River in the western part of Nigeria, they actually get their source from the western highlands or the western uplands in Nigeria. So rivers are gotten from highlands. And the third importance or relevance of highlands is that highlands, they help in the formation of relief rainfall or orographic rainfall. Now, this is the type of rainfall that is only common in places where you have the highlands, places with the windward side and the leeward side, places where, it's possible to be to be formed. So without the highland areas, there will be no formation of relief rainfall. And highlands like mountains, like plateaus, can also serve as a means of defense against enemies. Let's say there's a war, or there's a conflict, or there's a communal clash. Residents around such area can find refuge in that region where you have the mountains and the plateaus. They can hide in caves, and they can hide beneath rocks to save themselves. And the next one, which is pasture, gotten from highland areas, can help nomads when they practice transhumance. So when they move their cattle from the highlands to the lowland, and from the lowlands to the highlands, these highland areas can actually provide pasture, which can help in the growth and development of their cattle or their livestock. So it's a very good source of pasture for cattle rearers. Now, what are the problems or the disadvantages of highland areas? Now, the first one is that mountains, they can serve as a barrier to communication network. Now, that's because places where you have lots of mountains, it's usually difficult to build structures like roads, build railways, build airports around such a particular location. So as a result of that, it serves as a barrier to communication network. And number two is that highland areas, they actually occupy a vast area of land that could be used for residential purposes. So lands that humans can easily occupy will be occupied by these enormous rocks, that is in form of a mountain or in form of a plateau. So places where we have highlands, they are usually not habitable because the land area has been occupied by the mountains and the plateaus. And the next disadvantage is that these highlands, they occupy a vast agricultural lands that could be used for different agricultural purposes, is now occupied by the mountains and plateaus. And highland areas, they actually promote soil erosion. Now, this is owing to the fact that when we have relief rainfall in such a particular location, you will observe that the topsoil, from the highest elevation will be washed down the slope to surrounding lowlands around there. So as a result of that, highland areas, they usually have soil erosion, and due to this soil erosion, they end up having poor soil structure, and this disadvantage will cause the area to be infertile. Those areas will have poor soil nutrients, and plants will not actually grow in such a particular place. So that's to say that the mountainous soil, they are very poor in nutrients and sometimes difficult to cultivate. So let's look at the types of rocks that we have in highland areas. Now, for highlands in Nigeria, we basically have what we call basement rocks. Now, basement rocks, they include rocks like igneous rock, they include rocks like metamorphic rocks and volcanic rocks. So we have basement rocks, found in the highland areas in Nigeria. And when we look at the Udi Hills in the east, now you see that the type of rocks we have in this area of Nigeria is actually made up of a sedimentary component. So the rock in Udi Hills is carbonaceous in the sense that it is made up from the dead plants and dead animals, that died long ago. So these remains from these plants and animals will give rise to the formation of what? The carbonaceous sedimentary rock. And this is a type of rock that is common in the eastern part of Nigeria and Udi Hills, to be precise. Now, let's look at the lowlands. Remember I told you that the relief of a place can be high or low. So the lowlands in Nigeria. So when we talk about the lowlands, we are basically talking about places in Nigeria that are below 300 meters from the sea level. So any height of land that ranges from 0 to 300 meters is actually a lowland area. And in Nigeria here, we have what? We have lowlands. The lowlands we include the Niger Delta region, which is Rivers State, Bayelsa, Akwa Ibom, and the rest. Then we have the Chad Basin in the northeast. Then we have the Sokoto Plain in the northwestern part of Nigeria. We have the Niger-Benue Trough. Places around the River Niger and River Benue is actually lowland area. Then we have the Cross River Basin, and all coastal plains in Nigeria, they are also lowland areas. And then the Borno Plain is also what? Also a lowland area. So these are some of the places in Nigeria where the height usually falls below 300 meters from the sea level. So why is lowlands, why are they important? Now, number one is that these lowlands area, they provide a good site for human settlement and habitation. Now, remember I told you that for highland areas, they occupy vast area of lands that people should have resided on. But for lowland areas, we have people dwelling there. That's why you see that most population in Nigeria is usually sited on lowland areas in Nigeria. And also lowlands are actually sources of mineral deposits. So we can have what? Minerals found in lowland areas, just as we have it in the highland areas. And the next importance or relevance of lowlands is that they are good sites for the construction network. So in lowland areas, we have things like airports, we have things like roads, we have things like railways, situated on these terrains. And they also provide employment opportunities. Now, employment opportunities can range from transportation to agriculture and to other commercial activities, because all of these, take place on lowland areas. So they provide employment opportunities. And the next relevance of lowland is that they are good sites for agricultural purposes. Most agricultural activities, be it mechanized, be it subsistence, or any form of agricultural type, is actually done on lowland areas. And these lowland areas, they are actually good for rearing animals because they have more pastures compared to the highland area. Now, let's talk about the drainage of Nigeria. Now, when we talk about drainage, we are actually talking about the act of carrying water away from the land surface. The act of carrying water away from the land surface. So it entails all the channels or process that water passes through in order to exit the surface of the land back to the water body. So drainage is simply the naturally occurring channel flow that is formed by rivers and streams. So when we watch how rivers, when we watch how lakes and other water bodies flow back into the ocean, those pattern of flow is seen as what we call drainage. Now, drainage can be on land surface where rivers flow, and they also empty their waters into the seas, and they also empty their water into the ocean. Now, the shape that is taken by a river and its tributaries to drain water off the land is called drainage pattern. How water is channeled back into the ocean or the sea, from the surface of the land, is actually seen as the drainage pattern of that river or water. So what are the drainage patterns we have? Now, the first drainage pattern we have is called the dendritic drainage pattern. Now, if you look at the dendritic drainage pattern, you see that it takes the shape of what? Of a dendrite. So water flows, to a major stream, from the minor stream, and they meet, at the major stream, and they flow straight to the exit point, which is the mouth of the river. Then we also have the trellised drainage pattern. Now, in the trellised drainage pattern, you see that the minor channel of water is perpendicular to the major channel, and all of these minor channels, they actually flow to the major channel and drain out. Then we have the radial pattern, and we have the centripetal pattern. Now, for the radial pattern, it's water flowing out from a single source in different opposing direction. Then for the centripetal pattern, we have different channels of water, flowing to one source in a radial pattern too. Now, let's look at the two rivers we have in Nigeria, and these two rivers are actually the major rivers in Nigeria. So we start with the first, which is River Niger. Now, River Niger is actually the largest river in Nigeria and also the longest river we have in Nigeria. And the source of this river is actually from the Futajalon or the Guinea highlands, and it has a distance of about 4,180 kilometers all the way from Guinea down to Nigeria. And it flows inward, into Nigeria from the northwest, and it terminates down in the Atlantic Ocean, via the Niger Delta region. And the River Niger is actually linked to the other river, which is River Benue, making a confluence at Kogi State. The lake that is commonly found in River Niger is called the Kainji Lake, and the Kainji Lake is a lake that that is seen along New Busa, and we also have the Busa Falls around that location in Niger. So let's look at the tributary. The tributary of River Niger is River Benue, and also River Kaduna likewise is also a tributary because it connects to River Niger. Now, the second most common river we have in Nigeria is the Benue River, and it's also the second largest, and like I said, is a tributary of River Niger. Now, it joins River Niger at Kogi State, Lokoja to be precise, to form a confluence there. Now, the source of River Benue is actually from the northeastern part of the highlands, and also outside of Nigeria, from the east, that is from the region of Cameroon. Now, we have other rivers in Nigeria too, apart from the River Niger and River Benue. And these rivers in Nigeria, they actually have sources from the highlands in Nigeria. So we have River Hadija, River Katogun, River Komadugu, we have River Yedzaram, we have the Sokoto and the Rima River, we have the Ghana and Gongola River, we have the Zamfara River, we have the Kotangora River. And all of these rivers I've mentioned, they're actually found in the north central highlands. They get their source from there, and they empty themselves into Lake Chad. And from the western part of Nigeria, we as well have rivers like the Ogun River, the Osun River, the Ose River, and all of these rivers, their source is usually from the highland areas. So let's look at lakes. So now that we know what a river is, what then is a lake? A lake is simply a piece of water that is surrounded by land, or you can simply say a water body surrounded by land. And a lake can be natural or can be artificial. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that we have natural lakes in Nigeria and we have artificial lakes in Nigeria. So let's look at the natural lakes. Now, these lakes, they're actually existing on their own. They are made naturally, and not by man. And one of the most common natural lake we have in Nigeria is called the Lake Chad. Lake Chad is not just a natural lake, but the biggest lake we have in Nigeria, or the biggest natural lake we have in Nigeria, and it's seen as an inland drainage lake. So we also have the artificial lakes. Now, these artificial lakes, they are made by man, or you can say they are constructed by man. And a good example of an artificial lake in Nigeria is the Kainji Lake that we have along River Niger, and also the Shiro Lake that is found along River Kaduna. These lakes, they are actually made from dams, and they are basically important in the sense that they provide us with hydroelectric power. So most power source we get from Nigeria, they're actually gotten from these artificial lakes. Now, what's the importance or relevance of rivers? Now, number one is that rivers, they provide us with water that we can use for irrigation purposes. So if we have a situation where water is less, we can actually use these rivers to supplement it. And also it provides employment to so many people, fishermen, boat builders, canoe builders, and ship builders. They actually earn from these rivers because they build these equipment to be used on them. And rivers can actually serve as a medium of transport, especially inland water transportation. We make use of the river, and it generates hydroelectric power for us. And this hydroelectric power, they are gotten from dams, and we also have port constructions in places where we have rivers. And this port construction, they actually help in trading, be it local and international trade. So quickly, let's go over to the exam guide, and let's pick up a question to solve with reference to this topic. So we go to 2021, question number 5 in the theory. Now the question says, draw a sketch map of Nigeria, and on the map show and name. The first one we are to name is latitude 4 degrees north and 14 degrees north. Now, if you've been following the lesson carefully, you realize that at the beginning I told you that Nigeria is located between latitude 4 degrees north and 14 degrees north, and also longitude 3 degrees east and 15 degrees east. Now the question is asking us to draw a sketch map of Nigeria and locate it. Now, when they say sketch map, your map must not be drawn to scale. So you draw a similarity, something looking like, Nigeria. So you have something like this. So this is more like a sketch map of Nigeria, and we have the Chad right here. So this is a sketch map of Nigeria. Now the first thing we are meant to find is latitude 4 degrees north and 14 degrees north. So Nigeria is right above the equator. So if we have the equator down here at 0 degrees, so hopefully this place here is 4 degrees to the north, and this place at the top here is 14 degrees to the north. So we've succeeded in locating 4 degrees north and 14 degrees north. Now the second question says we should locate longitude 3 degrees and 15 degrees to the east. So on my left hand side we have the Greenwich meridian, which is 0. Around here 0 degrees. So if we have the 0 degrees here, so towards the east, which is via this direction, we actually indicate 3 degrees around here. So this is 3 degrees to the east. And at this point, on the eastern part of Nigeria, we have our 15 degrees. So this is what? 15 degrees to the east. So we have 4 degrees to the north, 14 degrees to the north, 3 degrees to the east, and 15 degrees to the east. Now, when you draw this accurately with the help of your pencil and your ruler, you end up getting your what? Your complete mark. So this is Nigeria in terms of what? Its coordinates, or let's say in terms of latitude and longitude. So with that, we have come to the end of this class, and thank you for staying.